What if a physicist figured out a way to make a wormhole? Not just your everyday, run-of-the-mill wormhole like you see in cheap science fiction. Time travel with a difference. Time travel with video conferencing. Imagine dialing in all of your ancestors. Suspended in metaphysical space, surrounded by 1,000 generations of your people, what would you discover about yourself? One thing would probably stand out. You would be touched by the long string of humble, hard-working people who passed the spark of life to you. There would be repeaters, favorite uncles seen in the faces of men who lived 200-300 years ago, and a string of mothers and grandmothers, big-hearted women who cooked, washed, managed, and bandaged, but could also swat a hiney if need be. And of course there were criminals. Not to dwell on it, but some of our relatives were hung in the town square or shot at the wall when the age of gunpowder rolled around. Here's the question. Would your ancestors be as interested in you as you are in them? I could be wrong, but I think they would, and would be willing to tell you about their lives, what they discovered from cradle to grave. For some, a specific life plan attached itself at an early age. They hit the ground running. They seemed to know what they were supposed to do in life, something that can be pretty upsetting for the rest of us who don't. Across the generations, there's always been a tender spot between those who think they know what they're good for and those who disagree. A few of our ancestors may have had, strange as it may sound, supernatural revelations about the future, a dream or a vision of an explicit thing they were put on earth to do. Dr. Wood admitted he'd always wanted to have a sign from God, like Paul on the road to Damascus. That is, until he noticed out-of-the-ordinary revelations usually came attached to trouble. Prophetic windows were indicators that someone's life would be shaken to its core. When that happens, God's revelation from an earlier time would be needed as a ballast for faith. Joseph had supernatural visions, and his brothers threw him into a hole on account of he was just more uppity than they could stand. All those dreams Joseph had as a young man were eventually put to use when he was sold into slavery, then thrown into prison. Those revelations were eventually needed to sustain his wounded life. And of course, it was just that, the interpretation of dreams, that brought him to Pharaoh and a massive life plan that became the Nation of Israel plan. If we had enough time to poll our ancestors, we'd probably discover most of them didn't have a clue what to do. Some struck a trail into fortune, others walked into terminal illness or servitude. Their futures emerged in due course, seen a little more clearly in the tally at the end of every day. Maybe they pursued natural inclinations or interests, but they learned to be patient and watched for surprise. They would probably also tell you there are blind curves coming at you. Some will be temporary. Some will wind on and on for the rest of your life, and you'll have to have a life warrior's flexibility to persist. Our godly ancestors, who saw their futures emerge in the fullness of time, sought to understand their circumstance in terms of the Heavenly Father and the family of God. When godly character is the basis for your plan, you have a resilience that is not your own. Sudden change has only a temporary impact.